Here's a look at a new docuseries on Hulu. Black Twitter first surfaced around 2008 as a community of social media users speaking to everything from politics to pop culture. It's now the focus of a new Hulu documentary brought to audiences by Prentice Penny, a former showrunner for the HBO show Insecure. He told us while Black Twitter is always on the edge of what's new, what's made it so special goes back to the earliest African American experiences.
So much of our culture is oral in this country, right? And so we don't have a lot of documentation of, what we did and the importance of those things. And again, when I see books being banned and narratives about slavery being adjusted in this country, I'm like, well, who's going to tell something, 10, 20, 40, 50 years from now, And so that's, to me, why the doc is even more important.
Content contributors have not only shaped the culture, but they've challenged mainstream media to pay more attention to stories often overlooked.
Black culture and Black people have always moved a certain way, right? And when we got on Twitter, we just moved that way on the platform, right? We still played the dozens on the platform. We still got jokes off. We still talked about serious issues, right, on the platform. And then I think what we did was, and I think you see it through Black Lives Matter and organization and activism and people like Stacey Abrams, you saw it move off the platform, right? And I think now you see it in just real life in terms of, new narratives being told, in terms of like the way that like mainstream media covers us.
Chicagoan Jamila Lemieux, a writer and cultural critic, says giving voice to those living the headline-making hashtags help make Black Twitter a source of information and not just a reaction.
I think Black Twitter is a mouthpiece for the Black masses in terms of Black popular culture. So the people are able to respond to what's happening to them, for them, because of them in real time.
Even though the content comes from and speaks to the Black community, it's accessible to all, which for some users has raised concerns about cultural appropriation, but not everyone sees it that way.
I don't think that Black Twitter has necessarily aided in appropriation just because it made some of our, our memes, our vernacular more popular. I think it's allowed us to have meaningful conversations about appropriation, and to, again, have a voice about who controls our culture.
I think the beauty is that it's on an open platform. It's a place where anybody can see it, but it's just maybe not for the white gaze in a way that other media consumption often seems to be.
While it's reached icon status, Penny told us there's a lot of room for improvement.
Black Twitter is really good at, protecting us against like outsiders, but we're not as always good as protecting our own sometimes. And I think we wanted to reflect that in the doc as well, because, we're not perfect either. We have a lot to grow in as well. But I think that's just other ways in which, Black culture has its own issues outside of Twitter, right? We're not always as kind like to those people, certainly Black women and certainly like members of that community in the real world. So that's just Twitter's just a reflection of that. So I think there's other ways that we could have been better for sure.
With social media ever evolving, Nettles says wherever Black Twitter goes, Chicago will be there.
When you talk about big issues like big movements like Black Lives Matter and other things, Black Chicagoans were often there. So I think just recognizing that a lot of those big major voices are going to be Black Chicagoans, we're going to have a voice at that table.